Hello, how are you doing? Do I look like a gypsy? Probably not, but today I'm going to read you a story about a gypsy called The Gypsy Princess, written and illustrated by Phoebe Gilman. So, here we go. The Gypsy Princess by Phoebe Gilman. There once was a wild gypsy girl who dreamed of being a princess. She lived in a gypsy caravan and her name was Cinnamon. Cinnamon knew many things. She could read your fortune in a crystal ball. She knew where to find herbs in the forest and how to brew them into strange potions. She could speak to the wind, and she knew how to dance with a bear. But she wanted to dance with a prince. In the evenings after supper, she would sit by the open fire, listening to her old auntie tell tales of magic and enchantment, tales of mermaids and pirates, of dragons and princesses. Oh, Cinnamon sighed. If only I could live in a palace like Princess Sabrina. Even a princess can be unhappy, her old auntie replied. Impossible, Cinnamon said, and she whittled a piece of wood she had found in the forest. The old gypsy woman smiled with pleasure as she watched Cinnamon free another creature from its prison of wood. There are things more precious than a crown of gold, she said. Cinnamon didn't believe her. Look at the stories. There's a castle. There's Princess Cinnamon. There's Cinnamon's dancing with a prince. There's a ship. Cinnamon on a magic horse. And a dragon. And here, Cinnamon was whittling a bear, just like her friend the bear. One day, Princess Sabrina came to the gypsy caravan to have her fortune told. Cinnamon gazed into the crystal ball and her eyes grew wide. I see a great palace. I see a handsome prince. I see diamonds, rubies, pearls, great fortune. Princess Sabrina laughed merrily, then opened her purse and dropped a silver coin into Cinnamon's outstretched palm. They tell me you dance with a bear, gypsy girl. I should like to see that. I will try, Cinnamon said, but Bobba does not always feel like dancing. So here's when the princess comes to the caravan, and here's the auntie and Cinnamon and the bear. Cinnamon picked up her tambourine and began to sing a wild gypsy song. Baba-latzi, come and dance a step or two. Baba-latzi, I would love to dance with you. Baba-latzi came and Baba-latzi danced. What fun, said the princess, clapping her hands. You and your bear must come back to my palace. We will play together, and I shall never be bored again. Baba-latzi shook his head. He would not go. But Cinnamon scarcely hesitated. She kissed her old auntie, waved goodbye to Baba-latzi and the gypsies, and climbed into the royal carriage. Princess Sabrina declared, from this day forth, you shall be known as Princess Cinnamon. And she was. Royal handmaids bathed her with scented water. They combed her wild dark hair and set it with a heavy pomade. They dressed her in a gown of satin embroidered with precious jewels and suspended over 7 crinolines. Cinnamon looked in the gilded palace mirror and barely recognized the girl looking back at her. At first, the two princesses played happily together. Princess Cinnamon sat upon an ebony horse with tinkling tassels and sapphire eyes, while Princess Sabrina showed her many wonderful princess toys. Every morning, royal handmaids combed and pomaded Cinnamon's princess hairdo. Every evening, she danced with princes in the grand palace ballroom. "Isn't this fun?" Princess Sabrina called out as she danced past. Cinnamon's feet were pinched and sore from the beautiful high heels and the princess shoes she wore. She wanted to tell Princess Sabrina that it was more fun to dance with Bobba, but she never had the chance. Princess Sabrina had swirled out of sight. As the days passed into weeks, the wonderful princess toys no longer seemed so wonderful. Each time they were wound, they did exactly what they had done the time before. "Where are the dragons and mermaids?" Cinnamon asked. Princess Sabrina tapped a dainty foot upon the palace floor. "Don't ask silly questions, Cinnamon. There's no such things as dragons and mermaids. Sing me a wild gypsy song." But Princess Cinnamon no longer felt like singing. She looked so sad. She doesn't look like Cinnamon anymore. She looks like a princess, but a very sad one. Princess Sabrina grew tired of the gypsy princess. "She is a royal bore," she complained to newer companions, and truth be told, she was. That night, Cinnamon tossed and turned upon her soft princess bed. "I'm lonely," she cried, "so very lonely." When at last she fell asleep, she dreamt that her old auntie was searching for her. There's her old auntie with Bobba looking for Princess Cinnamon. "Cinnamon, Cinnamon, where are you, my child?" And Cinnamon answered, "I am lost." The next morning she scarcely remembered her dream. She knew only that she longed to feel warm earth, not cold marble floor beneath her feet. At breakfast she could not eat her pheasant egg omelet. She asked to be excused. Princess Sabrina waved her away impatiently. Cinnamon left the banquet hall and went down to the great gilded gates. There they are. Opening them cautiously, she stepped onto the rough road that led away from the palace. The wind whispered, "Cinnamon, Cinnamon." Looks like Bobba and the auntie are calling to her. She wanted to follow, but it was too hard to walk in the high-heeled princess shoes. Cinnamon turned back. That night, as she tossed and turned upon her soft princess bed, her old auntie appeared in her dream. "Who are you, my child?" she demanded. And Cinnamon answered, "I cannot remember." The next morning, Cinnamon was more restless than ever. The bars of the palace gate seemed like the bars of a golden cage. She pushed the great gates open and gazed out into the distance. "Cinnamon, Cinnamon," the wind whispered. "The wind is calling to me," she said. She slipped her feet out of the dainty princess shoes and followed the wind over the hills to the edge of a great forest. There she stopped, afraid to enter. "Oh, my head aches so," she said, touching her golden crown, and she turned back. That night, once again, her old auntie appeared in her dream. "There are things more precious than a crown of gold," the old gypsy said. Cinnamon woke up and looked around. She saw nothing but the wind rippling in the water in the fountain outside her window. The next morning, Cinnamon did not put on her high-heeled princess shoes. She did not put on her golden crown. She did not go to the great hall for breakfast. She went down to the palace gates, opened them wide, and followed the wind. At the edge of the forest, she stopped and looked back at the palace gleaming in the distance. The wind brushed against her cheek and whispered, "Cinnamon, cinnamon," and Cinnamon entered the darkness. Brambles and thorns tore at her dress, but Cinnamon did not turn back. She walked deeper and deeper into the forest. She walked all day, and just as the first stars appeared in the darkening sky, she reached a small lake. There she rested, ate wild raspberries, and slept more soundly on her bed of leaves than she had ever slept in her soft princess bed. She awoke half expecting to see servants in gilded palace walls. Instead, she saw golden sunshine and a great bear swimming in a cool forest lake. "Babalatsi!" Cinnamon cried out joyfully. Babalatsi sniffed the air in a puzzled way. He thought he heard his lost friend calling, but he didn't recognize her. "Brr," he growled. Then he turned, swam back to the far shore, and disappeared into the depths of the forest. "Have I changed so much?" Cinnamon wondered, glancing down at her reflection in the clear water. She touched her hair. It felt stiff with pomade and perfume. "Ugh," she said, and she dove into the lake. When every last trace of perfume and pomade had been washed away, she rose from the water triumphant. "Babalatsi may not know who I am, but I know who I am. I am Cinnamon. I am a gypsy girl, and I know how to speak to the wind, and I know how to follow a bear." She walked all day and did not stop even when the sun set and the moon rose in the high evening sky. She followed Babalatsi's tracks until at last she reached the gypsy camp. The embers of the campfire were burning low. No one heard or saw her enter. No one, that is, except Babalatsi. He sniffed the air and growled, "Grrr." Cinnamon began to sing softly, "Babalatsi, Babalatsi, come and dance a step or two. Babalatsi, Babalatsi." And they danced the whole night through. So what do you think? I think Cinnamon had a wonderful adventure. And do you know what crinolines are? They're like fancy, fancy frills that go under a skirt to make it stand way out. And for her princess dress, Cinnamon had 7 crinolines under her dress. And do you know what pomade is? Pomade is sort of like an oil that you put on your hair to make it stay exactly in place. And Cinnamon discovered she would rather be with her auntie and her friends, the gypsies and Babalatsi, rather than spend her time in a big, fancy castle where she couldn't talk to the wind and dance with her bear. So, thank you for joining me, and have a good day. Until next time, bye-bye.